somebody would go, oh, I'll respect this guy, and, like, beat him up. I was going to have Chrissy be the sort of silhouette of the story of La Boheme, that when somebody gets the guy, somebody loses the guy. That's part of life. And I had written a scene where when they have their big scene, Cher and Nick, and they go upstairs at the end, in the sort of third act of the film, or end of the second act, whatever the heck that is, that she appears, and that it's snowing, and that she appears on the street, and she looks up and she sees the lights in his window. And when the light goes out, her heart breaks and she walks away, a lonely figure down the street alone. But I think that Norman just didn't want to do it. And I can't blame him. It was a hard shot. It was a hard thing to do. And he probably rightly intuited that it wasn't about the story, really. It was this filigree. And to me, I like that filigree. But he was trying to strongly tell a strong story simply and not get taken away into side issues.
Most films that I really have a lot of respect for the script and that I've worked on very closely with the writer, I do have respect for the writing, and I feel that my obligation as a director, my first obligation is to the text, is to try to get out of that scene what the writer intended. The changes I make in a film script while I'm shooting or when I'm about to shoot are usually made for a specific reason. I didn't buy it. I didn't believe it. I didn't find it believable. So that was the reason. Most changes I make are about believability. If you don't believe what's on the screen, if you don't believe the moment that's happening, that it really is happening, you tune the picture out. You say, oh, I'm watching a movie, or that wouldn't happen. I don't believe that. Now, that's what you're saying in your mind. You don't believe it, and that's the worst thing that can happen in a film. Film is about the suspense of belief. Film is about believability. You've got to believe everything that's happening is true, valid, and motivated. And if things aren't motivated, then nothing works. There's a motivation for almost everything we do. On the other hand, you got to remember that John Patrick Shanley came from the theater, and this was only his second film.
Well, I guess, one of the biggest thing that I would say about the difference between theater writing and film writing is that film writing requires endless structure. It's just all about structure. And the way you do it is with these sort of rectangular building blocks, the movie frame. And you build scene after scene into this sort of burgeoning collage that you try to get all moving in the same direction, like a freight train, to this inevitable conclusion. And you want to watch the pace of that build throughout, so that you get that narrative pulling you forward. Whereas theater's more like the original title of Death of a Salesman. The original title of Death of a Salesman was The Inside of His Head. And that's sort of what theater is. It's the inside of your head. Whereas film, all those images that you see in your life, is sort of the ultimate form of projection. The things you're looking at while you're feeling what you're feeling. And putting those together to come up with an expression through narration of some kind of inner and mysterious event, emotional event.
People from the theater, writers in the theater, always try to make it the Bible and lock it in. But they aren't there at that moment when you know you're going to have the camera in on a certain image and you're going to hear La Boheme in the background and the character's going to be looking. They aren't there. They didn't write that. They can't hear that. And they can't see that, I don't think. In other words, unless you direct your own film. And I think that is the answer for the writer. who doesn't want any changes in the text, then he or she should direct it themselves. And then it would be perfect. But I do think most of the changes I made were of a nature to underplay the theatricality of the script. Because in many ways, I felt I was adapting a stage play. I had made many films that were based on plays, on theatrical productions, and I like that. I like working with theatrical pieces because they're usually a little bit larger than life.
I've not been lucky.
I don't care about luck. You understand me? It ain't that.
You know, what is luck? I think that one of the things that she's saying when she's saying bad luck, is she is saying up until a certain point in my life, I lived viscerally. I lived from my instincts and my emotions. And look where it got me. You know, the man that I chose to marry was killed in a freak accident, and I was left a widow and a spinster. So I'm not going that route anymore. I've given up my faith in miracles, in the miracle of life itself. And I'm going to take the bull by the horns and use my intellect rather than my heart to get the things that I need, because I cannot get the things I want. They're like on the fast track to something explosive happening from the minute that they meet. The minute that girl in the bakery sees Cher, she knows that this is the woman who's going to take Ronnie. They all know. She's like completely into this from the start. She's the one who asked for the